Better golfers shoot lower scores by making fewer double bogeys, not more birdies. I've dedicated myself to teaching golfers how to do this over the last decade and helped thousands fight the war on double bogeys. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to avoid 4 common mistakes using your mind and not your golf swing. Now, if you do 1 or 2 of these, you're going to see some progress. But if you can master all 4, especially the last one, you're gonna be unstoppable. The first piece of the puzzle is not letting the start of your round dictate your thoughts. Nick Price was one of the best golfers of his era, but as great as he was, he made the same mistake that a lot of recreational golfers do. He let the beginning of his round influence how he was going to feel about his day. If he got off to a poor start, that's when the big mistakes would show up and end his chances of being in contention. Dr. Bob Rotella said the following to him, and this is a great quote from his book, Golf is Not a Game of Perfect. If you're going to be a victim of the first few holes, you don't have a prayer. You're like a puppet. You let the first few holes jerk your strings and tell you how you're going to feel and how you're going to think. Scoring expectations are possibly the hardest concept for golfers to wrap their heads around. But if you allow your early results to dictate your momentum and your thoughts, you are toast. So we all have a decision to make. Do we let a crappy few holes define the narrative and seal our fates? Dr. Rotella wrote in his book, "A golfer can and must decide how he will think." Here's a simple way that I think of it. No matter what happens to me at the beginning of a round, I ask myself the same exact question every time. Let's just see what happens if I stick to my plan. Now, what's my plan? Well, I'm going to take the time to choose smart targets. I'm going to give each shot the attention it deserves with my routine. I'm going to take time in between shots to have a chat with my playing partner, soak in the experience, or just calm myself down if I need it. Essentially, I'm just going to check off the boxes that are really important to me. So no matter what happens after my start, I'm going to do these things and just see what happens. And most importantly, I'm just open to all outcomes. Because it's golf and anything can happen. I once saw a golfer walk off the course after a poor opening tee shot. Even when I was at my worst and I was really addicted to scoring, I would feel so despondent and lose focus after a tough start. And I know this is a problem for a lot of you. You simply can't do this if you want to shoot your best scores and, more importantly, limit double bogeys, which is the theme of this video. Now, it's impossible not to think about your score and let it affect your emotions on some level, but we all can get better at this and take more control and, most importantly, not play the victim. How you deal with your early results in a round is a perfect segue into the next way to avoid double bogeys. You have to set your intentions before you tee off, and more importantly, what you hold yourself accountable to. For a long time, I had no plan on the golf course. I was really just winging it from shot to shot. And I find that most of you are falling into the same exact trap. When things aren't going well and you don't have a plan, that's when the double bogeys, or worse, start showing up. My father always had a great quote: "It's hard to smell the roses in the middle of a shitstorm." Now, he's not a golfer, but that's a perfect mantra. Things can go off the rails rather quickly, and it's so easy to throw away strokes quickly in this game when that happens. But it's also an opportunity to save a ton of strokes if you can change your mindset, and that's why we need to have this small, defined checklist. How do you get it? Start analyzing your rounds. Pay close attention to what's happening when you're making your double or triple bogeys, as hard as it is to relive. I guarantee you that you're going to find some common threads that go beyond your physical ability and your golf swing. You'll start to see patterns in your decision making, your attitude, and just your overall mindset as your round unfolds. And this is how you make that checklist. It doesn't have to be long or complicated. In fact, it should be so simple that you can remember it during your round, because your mind will be racing. It could be as simple as saying to take 20 seconds to think about the right target and shot you want to play every time you're about to hit. Now, the PGA Tour player I coach literally writes this down in his yardage book so he can read it before every shot. As great as he is, and he is great, his emotions get the better of him, and even he needs reminders in the heat of the battle. And having me and his caddy hold him accountable to this checklist can sometimes make the difference between missing a cut or being in contention in a tournament. So I know that it can work for you too. I'm getting closer to the most important way to avoid doubles, but first, let's talk about the third piece of this mental puzzle. It's how you are reacting to your shots on the course. This is a major struggle for almost every player, and if you don't get it right, it can have a bit of a domino effect on how your round is unfolding. Here's a very basic framework on how I think of it. You want to internalize and take ownership of your good shots, and then objectify the ones that you don't like so much. Now, most golfers do the exact opposite of this. Let me start with internalizing the good shots because almost everyone gets this part wrong. To me, the best part about playing golf is putting in the work and then enjoying the moments where everything works out. When you consider all of the things that have to go right at impact to hit a golf ball in the vicinity of where you are aimed, it's a bit of a minor miracle. But most golfers don't even acknowledge these shots when they occur on the course. They either gloss over them, or worse, they don't even know when they hit a good shot. One of the most popular chapters of my book, The 4 Foundations of Golf, is the section where I talk about how to actually define a good shot. And it's such a relief to most golfers when they read the data because they start to understand that the bar they set for themselves is way too high. They think that they should be hitting a 100-yard wedge to 10 feet, and then when it lands on the green 30 feet away, they either get angry at themselves or they just move on like nothing happened. Now, I will do a whole separate video on this concept at some point, but it's so important for your mental and strategic game to know what a good shot is for your skill level. It sounds basic, but again, it is fundamental to limiting these double bogeys. You want to experience joy on these shots. You want to store them in your memory bank. In other words, you want to internalize them and take ownership of them. I don't need to tell you this, but this game is so hard, and if we don't take these moments to acknowledge these mini victories, the next part becomes way harder and leads to even bigger numbers that I'm trying to help you avoid. Now let's talk about the stinkers and what to do with them. Walter Hagen once said that he expected to hit 7 bad shots every round so that when they eventually showed up, he wasn't that shocked. And this is a really great way to think about it. So let's say that you hit a shot that you know is not great. You sliced your drive into the trees, you bladed a wedge, or you chunked your iron from the middle of the fairway. It happens. Naturally, our first instinct is to get frustrated and angry. Honestly, that's okay. It's really hard to control your initial reaction on the golf course. But it's the secondary reaction, or as Buddhists would refer to it, firing the second arrow, that's the real mistake all of you are making, and me at times. My friend Carl Morris, who is a wonderful coach, always talks about this and the value of asking yourself good questions. So let's say your immediate reaction is frustration after one of these bad shots. But then you likely have a couple of minutes before you get to the ball, and this is where objectifying the shot is so helpful. Can you take a moment to ask yourself a few questions? Maybe you weren't committed, or maybe it was a poor target, or maybe you need to ask yourself if certain impact conditions weren't met properly. You can always use the big 3 that Adam Young and myself always talk about on the Sweet Spot podcast to help diagnose these impact problems. Was it a poor strike on the club face? Was the club face too open or closed? Or maybe you just didn't interact with the turf properly with your iron or wedge. I find that going through these questions and really having some type of mini post-shot routine is more helpful than the other option, which is just getting even angrier at yourself and then making the biggest mistake. So everything I've discussed so far will lead to fewer double bogeys and lower your scores. But this last piece of the puzzle is by far the most important. When you fit it together with the other pieces I've discussed, you are going to reach your potential, I promise. I can't tell you how many golfers have adopted this mindset and then told me that their handicap has dropped instantly when they put it into practice. Here it is. You need to avoid the gambler's mentality. Let me explain. Casinos are built on predictable human mistakes. They all have a statistical edge in their games, but they win even more because people are so bad at managing their emotions when they lose. You get a bad string of cards on the blackjack table, and then your brain snaps into revenge mode and bets even bigger trying to get all those chips back that you lost quickly. Golfers do the same exact thing, but instead of losing money quickly, they are losing strokes. In poker, it's called being on tilt, and it's really the same exact part of your brain that just can't help being aggressive and doing something stupid when you feel like you're losing. Now, if you can stop yourself in these scenarios, you're going to lower your handicap, I guarantee it. But the easiest thing to do is the following. Let's say you hit a bad drive into the trees and then you see that little opening and you think it's an opportunity to get that stroke back. Or you're stuck near the lip of a fairway bunker and that little devil on your shoulder thinks you can clear it with a 7-iron and get it on the green still. Or maybe you're just having a bad start to your round and you see that tucked pin on the front left of the green and you just say to yourself, I need to make a birdie right now to stop the bleeding. And that's when golf, like the casino, has you beaten. It's going to gobble up all of your chips, or in this case, you are going to start making some huge numbers on your scorecard. And all you have to do is ask yourself one simple question when you do find yourself in trouble. What can I do to make a good bogey here? This simple question is going to move you away from the dumb decision and get you back to safety, so you give yourself a better chance of limiting the big number. As I said in the beginning of the video, everyone thinks it's more about birdies and spectacular shots, but it's these scenarios that make the difference of breaking 190 or even 80. Now, this all sounds really easy and rational when you're likely sitting on your living room couch and watching this video and understanding this information, but I promise you it's going to be way harder in the moment. I even struggle with these emotions even though I'm the one giving out the advice. And I always want to remind all of you about the most important statistic from Mark Brody's book, Every Shot Counts. PGA Tour players are making bogey 80% of the time when they are in recovery situations like the trees. So all of those miraculous shots that you're seeing on TV are really just from a highlight reel. They're not showing you the 100 other players who are making bogeys. So you have to remind yourself, if I do make a bogey when I'm in the trees, I'm keeping pace with the best players in the world. So whatever mantra that you need to get stuck in your brain before you tee off, do it. Because I promise you that every round you play, you'll be faced with multiple scenarios where you are faced with this basic decision. And everything inside of you is pulling you towards the gambler's mentality, and you have to fight against it. You can watch 100 YouTube videos on how to fix your slice, but this is by far and away the lowest hanging fruit to lower your handicap, no matter what level of golf you're playing. You can't get too good at avoiding big mistakes. Let me tell you one final thing that can also make all the difference in avoiding these double bogeys. Please be kind to yourself. Golf is a really hard game, and getting better is very much about managing your mistakes. I can tell you from a lot of personal experience that I have had many double, triple, or even quadruple bogeys because I was an absolute jerk to myself. Finding ways to be a little bit more accepting, forgiving, and having a little bit more positive self-talk is truly a superpower in this game, and not enough golfers work on this. So if you want to find more ways to get rid of double bogeys from your game, my book, The 4 Foundations of Golf, was going to give you a really detailed plan. I'm going to help you manage your expectations, pick smarter targets, practice more effectively, and also give you plenty of mental tips like I did in this video. You can learn more about the book in the link below. And please subscribe to the channel so you know when the next video comes out and the YouTube algorithm thinks this is the next video of mine that you should watch.